So most likely, if you want to start working in Germany as a doctor, you've read a lot of guides online and you've come across something called a Hospitation. Now, if you're like the most people out there, you don't truly understand what exactly a Hospitation is. So for this reason, I decided to make a video where I talk about everything you need to know regarding the Hospitation. What exactly it is, what you do, what's the point, what are the necessary requirements, how long does it last, what happens during the Hospitation, and how you can make the most out of it. Now, before we even get started with the video, I just want to say that I have a very special announcement, so be sure to stay until the end of the video. Also, like I've mentioned in the previous videos, we have a Discord community, so feel free to join. The link is going to be in the description below. Now, here's the best Hospitation guide on the internet. So what is a Hospitation? Basically, a Hospitation is an observership or a training period in a German hospital. But who is eligible for something like this? Well, if you're a medical graduate waiting for your Approbation, or you have your Approbation in your hands, you're basically eligible for a Hospitation. Now, sometimes, even though it's very uncommon, medical students can also do a Hospitation, but it's not something that is seen quite oftenly in German hospitals. So what exactly do you do? Well, during a Hospitation, you basically observe the daily activities of a specific department of your choice, you attend rounds, and you start getting familiar with the German medical system, which is very important. I'm going to touch on this topic a bit later. But something that is very worth mentioning here is that since this is an observership, you're not actually allowed to participate in patient care. This is not always the case, and we're going to talk about this later in this video, but basically your entire point during a Hospitation is that you take a closer look in a specific department to see if this department is the right choice for you. If you can imagine yourself working there. It's basically an opportunity that the German hospitals here provide to basically help the doctors see if this department is the right choice for them. It also helps employees to see if they can fit in a team. Now, the Hospitation is something voluntary. This means that unlike internships or practical year, a PJ, which is basically something mandatory for medical students here in Germany, you do not have to do a Hospitation. But if you do, it's something very powerful, especially for your CV. Now, what's the point of the Hospitation? Well, like I mentioned before, it helps you understand the workflows of a specific department, how exactly is the day-to-day activities, what people are doing, what type of patients come to the hospital, what type of care do they provide to said patients. And basically, it's an opportunity for you to master the language, understand the hospital culture, and also to become a professional in medical documentation in German. Now, if you're an international medical graduate and you're planning to come here to work in Germany, this is something very important because this can really help you with the FSP and the KP. I've talked about these topics in a few videos on my channel, so if you don't know what these things are, you can be sure to check these videos out. So now that you understand the basics of a Hospitation, let's move on forward to what are the necessary requirements for you to actually acquire this opportunity. Well, to begin with, the most important thing is that you can speak German. Well, this is obvious. If you want to observe what a specific department is doing in a hospital here in Germany, most likely you need to speak the language. Now, you will see different sources that they say that basically you can do this having a B1 level, but this is not the case. Usually, if you have a B2 level, and in some cases even a C1 level, this can give you credibility and a higher chance of you acquiring a Hospitation. Because without speaking the language, you will have no clue what is happening in said department. Once you have the language, what you basically need is a CV and in some cases a motivational letter or a Motivationsschreiben. This is very simple. You just need a 1 page, maximum 2 pages, where you write down exactly where you've done your studies, if you have any, let's say, papers, if you have any experience, and so on and so forth. And you describe on your motivational letter who you are, what are your goals are here in Germany, and specific with this department and this hospital, why you like this hospital, and which specialty you want to do, and what are your goals in said specialty. Now, once you have acquired these requirements, meaning the CV and the language, what you need to do then is to basically find the hospitals to start reaching out to them. So this is what I've written here, contact and application. Basically, your goal now after acquiring all of these documents is to find the email addresses of the chief of the department, which is called the Chefarzt, or from the secretary. We're going to touch a bit more about this later on the video. But before you start getting excited and start sending all of these emails, what I would highly recommend you is submitting some extra supporting documents, which might help the entire procedure go faster. What I mean by that is some hospitals require specific vaccinations, for example, for them to prepare all of the documents for you to start doing the Hospitation there. So if you have a vaccination book and so on and so forth, it would be quite smart to also include this. And if you have a proof of legal stay or a visa status, this can also help speed up the entire process. So before you even start sending those documents, you need to understand how long exactly a Hospitation lasts. Now, depending on your status, meaning if you have your approbation or not, this can range from 1 day to 3 months. What I mean by that is that usually if you have your approbation and you want to find a place to start working in, it will be much smarter to go and do a Hospitation for like a day or two. But if you're in the beginning stages of your medical journey here in Germany, there is a possibility for you to do a Hospitation at a specific department for up to 3 months. This might be very beneficial for you because being for 3 months at a specific department can really help you improve your German level. So now that you know what a Hospitation is, what are the necessary requirements, how long it lasts, you might ask yourself, what exactly happens during a Hospitation? Well, it's pretty simple. You need to imagine this as basically being a resident doctor and working at a specific department without getting paid. Think of an Assistenzarzt, but without the responsibilities, meaning you do not have to do any documentation, take an active participation in the patient care, but you're allowed to shadow, let's say, specific residents, specialists, or even attending physicians. Now, even though legally it's not allowed for you to participate in the patient care, in some hospitals and in some cases, your colleagues might allow you to do a few, let's say, mundane things like taking an anamnesis, putting on an IV, drawing blood, and so on and so forth. But this really depends on the hospital you're doing a Hospitation in. But how does this affect your medical journey? Well, if you're in the beginning stages of your journey, this can really improve your job and Hospitation application chances. Meaning that if someone sees in your CV that you've spent 2-3 months at specific departments all over the country or in specific, let's say, area, they will know that you take this very seriously to begin with, and also that other colleagues in departments have trusted you to be there for a long period of time. Imagine that you have 5-6 friends and one of your friends basically brings a new guy into the group, or like a girl in this case. Because an established person of your friend group has brought in a new person, people might tend to like them and trust them a bit faster because they know that if they come because someone, let's say, vouches for them, most likely they have passed this, let's say, first screening test. And this is basically the same principle when you do a Hospitation in multiple and different hospitals here in Germany. People tend to trust you a bit more because you've gotten, let's say, like the okay from other colleagues of theirs. Like I mentioned before, spending up to 3 months in a German hospital at a specific department and having contact every day with your colleagues and other patients can really increase your German language skills. Most people that I've talked on the Discord channel and people who want to come here, they're usually not very confident with their German skills, and this is totally understandable. But having the opportunity to work in an environment here in Germany where you can speak the German language all the time, take anamnesis, talk with colleagues, and basically start communicating on a daily basis in a foreign language can really help you increase your German language skills. This also provides you clarity with what you want to do. Some people that come here don't have a plan exactly on what specialty they want to choose. So having the opportunity to discover how exactly a specific specialty works here in Germany, and also answer some of the questions that you might have of what specialty really suits you. And lastly, doing a Hospitation can also help you with your visa or your legal stay. Now, I'm not quite sure if this is true, but I've read this online. I would really recommend you doing your own research regarding this topic. So now you know what a Hospitation is, how to do it, and how to make the most out of it. But what's next? How can you actually get a Hospitation? Before we start with the exact, let's say, procedure on how I recommend people getting a Hospitation, I'm gonna touch a bit more on the little details that are very, very, very necessary on this path. Like, for example, the costs. Now, once you start your Hospitation, you need to understand that there are a few costs attached to this. And what do I mean by that? Since you're going to be going basically to a hospital to observe the daily activities, you need to understand that you will have to find a way to go from your apartment or your house to said hospital. You need to understand that there's a specific distance you need to travel every day. You need to afford the gas, for example, a lab coat, and so on and so forth. So before you even start applying, be sure to do a proper research on where you want to apply, and be sure to think of the distance you need to travel every day and what exactly this trip is going to look like. So when I started, let's say, reaching out to hospitals, I started getting a lot of opportunities to do a Hospitation in multiple hospitals. But I had to decline some of them because they were quite simply too far away from my apartment. I ended up doing my first Hospitation in anesthesiology in a city next to the city I currently live in. And even though it was a 20-minute drive, I didn't take into consideration all of the costs needed for this Hospitation, meaning all of the gas I needed to spend, parking, also like the food, and so on and so forth. Because I didn't plan this properly, I ended up spending way too much money, and I could have avoided all of these costs if I had found something closer to where I live. And the reason why I'm telling you this is for you to basically not do the same mistakes that I have made. Because I didn't learn from my mistakes, I ended up doing my second Hospitation in a city that was 1.5 to 2 hours away from me by car. So this meant that basically I had to drive every day at 5 a.m. and go to a whole different city just to do a Hospitation. So don't be like me, do a proper research. If you want to go to another city to do your Hospitation, start also planning the next step by maybe booking an Airbnb for the time you're gonna live there, or maybe finding a hotel, and so on and so forth. Now, this really depends on the amount of money you have and how much money you want to spend, but the whole point of this story is that you should properly plan ahead. Now, like I mentioned before, the language is a very important thing. A B1 is the minimum requirement for a Hospitation, but a B2 and sometimes a C1 is a much, much safer choice. Most people, before they even go to do a Hospitation, they're actually very stressed, they're very worried, they don't know if they can pull this off, they don't feel comfortable with the German, and this is completely normal. But this is okay. You need to understand that this is not your native language, that you're gonna make mistakes, and if you don't understand something, just simply ask. Maybe even in English or in a different language. It's okay to ask. This is basically the whole point for you doing a Hospitation during the initial stages of your medical journey, and it is for you to learn how to communicate in a hospital setting. Now, if you have your approbation and you go to do a Hospitation, most likely it wouldn't be the smartest choice to start basically speaking to all of the residents there and attending physicians in English. But yes, if you're in the beginning stage, don't worry, just ask. I've also gotten a lot of questions in the Discord community regarding books to help people prepare for the Hospitation, the FSP, and so on and so forth. So in this, let's say, whimsical board, I have attached here 2 books that I highly recommend you buying and also reading through. And don't worry, I'm also going to put this whimsical board in the description below so you can check it out yourself. Now, which tools can you actually use to find a Hospitation? Listen, we live in 2025. AI is your friend. Don't be stupid. Stop trying to go the hard way. Do things the easy way. You can use Google, you can use LinkedIn, you can use Reddit, Instagram, ChatGPT. You can use so many tools out there online which are free that will help you not only find hospitals but also help you reach out to them, help you create your Motivationsschreiben, help you find the perfect email to like send them. Don't be stupid. There were medical doctors 10 or 20 years ago that came to this country to start the medical career, and they didn't have all of these tools, and they still managed to pull through. You need to understand that nowadays it's very, very easy for you to acquire these opportunities because there are so many tools you can use online. And if you don't know how to use all of these tools, I went ahead and created a PDF file just for you, which is a list of 2,000 plus German hospitals and clinics and private practices as well, just for you to find and contact potential employers and also hospitals for a Hospitation possibility. So if you don't know where to start from, be sure to start from here. I'm gonna put this link as well in the description below. Now, like I mentioned before, most people that come here, they're not quite sure what specialty they want to do. And the great thing about the Hospitation is that you can have the opportunity to explore any specialty you want. You can do a Hospitation in ophthalmology, dermatology, radiology, general surgery, orthopedics, internal medicine. You can do anything you want. And this can not only help you to basically, like I mentioned before, answer these troubling questions that you have and also help you clarify what you want to do with your medical career, but also you can acquire knowledge and experience in the field of your choice, which can also help you excel at your future workplace. What I mean by this, and what I mentioned before as well, is that a Hospitation is basically a tool you can use to enhance your CV. If you want to find yourself in the top clinic, for example, that does the most highly specialized ophthalmology surgeries, you can start building up your CV by doing a Hospitation in a rural area at a random hospital, then going to do one, let's say, at a private practice, then a bigger hospital, and then with your enhanced CV, you can reach out to your favorite, let's say, employer and be like, hey, listen, I'm really passionate about this. I have some experience. I feel like this is the best fit for you, and I would love to work with you. Trust me, this will go a long, long, long way. So I know most of you might still have a lot of questions regarding how you can get a Hospitation. You might feel afraid, like reach out to people, call them, send them an email. I can understand. So for this reason, I'm going to give you also another tip on how you can get a Hospitation in a much simpler way. Now, most of you watching this video might have a connection that works already here in Germany. And this is very powerful because exactly like I mentioned before with the friend group analogy, you can use all of your friends, connections, family members that already work here to open up the door for you in a hospital. What I mean by that is that you can basically use your connections and your family members to get your foot in the door at a specific department. Since you know someone that is already working at a specific department and has basically built trust with the other attending physicians, specialists, and so on and so forth, they can very, very easily introduce the idea to them that they have a friend, they want to start working here, and you can basically start your journey without having to do a cold outreach in a random hospital where like nobody knows you. Now, I can also understand that most of you might not have any connections here. For this reason, I feel like there's another way you can basically bypass this. There are so many tools, like I mentioned before, out there online that you can use right now that are free, and one of them is LinkedIn. I know this is not the most conventional method for most people out there, but I feel like LinkedIn is really a hidden gem. What I mean by that is that you can use LinkedIn to find and connect people with like the same roots. I mentioned this also in a previous video in my channel, but what I recommend people doing is that they go on LinkedIn, they find basically a hospital they want to work in, and they try to find someone with the same roots as them. What I mean by that, like I mentioned before, I am Greek. There are a lot of Greek people working in the same area as I am. Your root with them is basically a connection tool. And this is a very big benefit. Reaching out to someone with the same background as you can really help you open up new opportunities that you can't even imagine. Just going on LinkedIn and finding someone and reaching out to them and be like, hey, listen, I saw you're also Greek. I saw you work there. I really like this hospital. Would you, let's say, mind connecting me with the attending physician or the chief of the department, and so on and so forth. If you don't have any connections here and if you don't have anyone in this country, your goal should be to basically put yourself into motion, to basically start swimming with the flow of the water, not against it. Don't make your life harder, make your life easier. There are tools out there, use them to your advantage. Now, moving on, I've talked to a lot of people that want to start reaching out to hospitals and sending emails without even being in the country. Now, it's worth mentioning that I personally have never met any person that got a Hospitation without even living in Germany. So I would recommend to you that before you start sending out these emails, to basically move into the country. Stay at a place from like a family member or like a friend. And always, when reaching out to the hospitals, be sure to add your phone number at the end of the email and also add your CV. If you want to take this one step further, you can also call the department you're sending the email to before you actually hitting the send button. It's much better also for the departments to know that the person who is sending the email is not a bot, is not a fake email, is not like a scammer or whatever. So they can see basically that you're an actual person who is actually interested in working there. And also another tip that I forgot to write right here, be sure to get a German phone number. So before moving to like the last part of the video, I just want to mention how the entire workflow usually looks like. So what you do is basically you email the chief of the department or the secretary, and then they either email you back or call you. On the email or call, they're gonna tell you basically that, hey, we just look at your CV, it looks pretty good, we would like to see you at an interview. You basically then say yes, you find a time and a place, usually at the department, you go there, you have an interview with the chief of the department most likely, just for them to see that you can basically stand on your feet, you can communicate properly, and then if they like you, then you can start doing the Hospitation. Now, since the Hospitation can also be a step before acquiring a job opportunity, I would highly recommend you dressing well on the interview, be there on time, and carry your CV with you. Once they tell you, hey, listen, you look good, everything is okay, you can start, let's say, doing a Hospitation here for the next 2 months. You just need to ask when it's possible for you to start, what time you need to be here, and what you need to bring with you. Most likely they won't need you to bring anything, but there are some hospitals that require you to bring your own white coat, stethoscope, and so on and so forth. So be sure to get those as well. I just mentioned that the Hospitation can also be a job opportunity for you. So be sure to plan your Hospitation strategically, meaning that if you found the hospital you want to really work in, start talking to the other resident doctors there and ask them how exactly the department functions. How are the night shifts done? How much they get paid for the night shifts? Do they get a good education there? Are they satisfied with their choice? Is there something else they can do? What are the other possibilities for people to like develop in this department? Can someone then maybe do a specialized training there, and so on and so forth? Don't be the type of person that does this passively. Don't just go there just to put this on your CV. Make the most out of your Hospitation. See if this would be the place you could imagine yourself working in. And lastly, but not least, it's very common here in Germany that resident doctors switch hospitals during their entire residency, and most people are quite aware of this. So when they offer you a job opportunity, respectfully say that you're going to consider it. You can also mention that you have a few other hospitals you want to visit, and be sure after your Hospitation to really think through if this environment will be the best for you, first of all psychologically, and second of all for your medical career. I just want to mention that if you feel uncertain about your German, if you feel uncertain speaking with other colleagues, you can always use tools like ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, whatever, to basically start practicing conversations with your colleagues. What I mean by this is that you can use these tools to translate different sentences, conversations, and you can start practicing them. You can start learning a few words, you can start practicing the sentences just for you to get more accustomed to the language. So yeah, that's it. Now you are a professional, you know everything that needs to be known regarding the Hospitation. So be sure to go out there and make the most out of it. So now, regarding the special announcement that I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I'm looking for 2 individuals who have studied outside of the European Union who want to come and work here in Germany. I'm gonna help those 2 individuals to do everything needed to start working here in Germany when it comes to documentation, finding a job, helping them out, anything needed. I'm gonna put also a link in the description with a questionnaire that they need to fill out, and I'm gonna personally reach out to them to help them out. So if you're interested, or if you want to take this step and you're not sure on how to do it, feel free to submit this questionnaire. And if you like your one, I'm gonna reach out to you. So that was it. Thanks a lot for watching, and we're gonna see each other in the next video. Bye.